get familiar with the live chat so that you can use it later for cues, so I can provide you with some aids to any photography questions that you have. If anyone's interested, it's predictably poor here in Portsmouth. The weather quite cloudy for a June day, but quite warm, and the threat of rain overhead always there. But then this is the UK, isn't it? South England, the UK. Who knows? We're inside today, though. We're not doing outside portraits with ambient light. We're doing inside portraits with studio light. Now, studio light in the form of off-camera flash can be quite intimidating to some people. It's a whole load of new things to learn, new systems to learn, and new things that can potentially go wrong. But what I want to do today is to show you how to use one very simple studio light for a series of portraits to create a range of styles simply within your studio shoots. And you can use these studio lights inside or outside. You can balance them with ambient light. What we're going to be doing today is going to be using only flash photography. The only photographic images which you'll see on our live tether will be flash photography images with our wonderful model here, Jasmine. Say hello to everyone on the internet, Jasmine. Fantastic. So, Jasmine, in case you haven't guessed, is 14 years old. I chose a teenager to make this shoot even harder for myself. Not only is it live, but we're live shooting with a teenager. This should be fun. When I was 14 years old, I was in a photography class at school. I was the only person in that photography class at school, so it was just me and my teacher. And what my teacher said to me is he pointed to a white wall, similar to the white wall that we have behind me here. And he said, "What colour is that wall, James?" I thought it was a trick question, but I still went with my gut instinct and said, "Well, sir, I think that wall is white." He said, "Well done. What colour do you think that white wall is to your camera? What colour does your camera think that white wall is?" And the truth is, if you set your camera up to auto, it thinks that the white wall is grey. Cameras always try and make things mid-grey as much as possible whenever they're auto exposing, whenever they're even on aperture priority or shutter speed priority or any of those complicated settings. And once you get your head around that, you understand the importance of color calibration, you understand the importance of good monitors, and you understand the importance of using things like this, which is our color checker passport 2, which is what we're going to be showcasing you how to use today and how it can help your photography. In my mind, in terms of professional photography, one of the best ways to get better at taking pictures is to be consistent, to be as consistent as possible with the work that you're putting out. And giving you less things to worry about, giving you one less thing to worry about, is a wonderful way to get consistent results and take your mind off of the technical side of photography and put it back into the creative side of photography and creating wonderful images. It actually frees you up to focus on attention to detail. And attention to detail is that last 10% in photography. Consistency, practice, getting used to lights, getting used to working with people, understanding how light works, understanding posing and lighting and things like that is how you get up to that 90%. But to get to that extra 10%, you need attention to detail, and giving yourself less things to worry about is a wonderful way to help achieve that. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be taking this very simple one light here. It's in a kit softbox. I've completely, there, look at that. Jasmine's probably pleased with that. We'll just leave that there, I think, which is great. There she is, wonderful. So yes, we're going to be taking this one light today and we'll be shooting some off-camera flash with this. We're going to show you the different ways that you can use this. But first of all, we need to explain a little bit about how light works, how color works, and how shades work within an image. If you with digital photography, there's all a plethora of different cameras, different camera lenses, different camera bodies out there. And each lens made organically with glass is essentially different from the next. Even if you have the same brand lens with the same brand focal length bought from the same shop, then they're likely to have very slight changes in the way that light passes through it, and therefore in the way that the camera sensor reads those light readings and converts them into color images. After that, when you process the images and put them through, you can put them through all manner of profiles through different software systems, and you can also then put them through into Photoshop, where you then process them and eventually lead them to print. And you're processing them through the display monitor that you have, so that you're trusting that the colors coming through on the display are true. I speak to so many photographers who tell me they have problems with printing images, and the images look totally different to how they saw them in studio, and then how they saw them on the back of a camera, and then how they saw them on their monitor, until they eventually got a disappointing print with muddy colors and colors that weren't true. But back to the matter, really scientifically, we can see more colors with our eyes than our cameras can possibly imagine. Which is why when sometimes you're on holiday and you see a wonderful landscape with a sky and a sunset and magentas and oranges and pinks and purples and clouds and dusk and sea and reflections, in your mind's eye you're thinking, what a wonderful image, and you reach for your phone or you reach for your camera, and inevitably you're disappointed with the image because the color range of the camera is less than what our eyes can see. We want to try and get as much of a true reflection as to what we see in front of us to a finished print. The finished print, I always think, is the final destination of a photograph. An image isn't a photograph until it's been printed, until it's tangible, until it's real, until it's something that's wonderful. And if you've never handed over a print to a client, if you're an amateur who's never gone that extra step to print an image and hand it to the person or to the mother or to the grandparent who you've taken that picture of, you've only had the wherewithal to show it on the back of the camera or to show it through an email or to show it on your Facebook feed, I encourage you, I implore you to try and use the system to get to a print that you can put in a mount, that you can hand to a family member, because there genuinely is nothing better. Our business model here, our studio here in Portsmouth at Musselwhite Photography is built around putting prints in hands, giving families something tangible and something that has value to their shoot. And we're going to help show you how to do that. And the first step in doing that is taking an image of this color checker passport 2, which we're going to do now. Is that okay? Yeah. Jasmine's fired up. I can't wait. Honestly, her energy is just going to come through the screen to you wherever you are in the world. And I understand we have people from America. We have people from Wales in the United Kingdom. We have people from... where was the other places we had? Can we give me some places so I can shout out some places?
Isle of Man.
The Isle of Man. Welcome from the Isle of Man. Lovely to see you here at our live shoot. Now, I metered this light beforehand. Deliberate that I've used a kit softbox. Okay, so this is an 80 centimeter softbox that you are going to get with any standard kit from whatever lighting thing that you use. From whatever lighting system that you use, you're going to get a square softbox that's like this, a kit softbox. General rule of thumb for me is the thing that you're lighting should be the size of or smaller than the modifier that you're using. In this case, the modifier is this softbox. So realistically, if we were to stand Jasmine next to it, you stand there, a little bit closer, it's just about the size of half a jasmine. So really this light is perfect for anything up to half a jasmine or smaller. So anything from just below the 2.2 to just above, I think we're going to get a pretty good spread, even spread of light across from this. I've metered this out, and the way that I set up my lights in studio is that I always shoot raw. I always shoot at ISO 100 when I'm in studio because I want the maximum amount of quality. The raw is going to give me the maximum amount of information and the maximum amount of color information to get from this passport checker. And the ISO is going to give me a really, really good quality raw image with minimum amount of grain. See, I see the wheels are turning. See, if I haven't said already, Jasmine's a photography student, so this is like a double learning experience, isn't it? This is wonderful. Modeling and photography, which is all wonderful, all at the same time. I've set up my lights, I've set up the power of my lights, and I'm exposing correctly for an ISO of 100, a shutter speed of 1/160th of a second, because we are shooting in studio. We don't need to worry too much about ambient light. And I'm also shooting at around about just a shade over f8. If I'm shooting group shots or big shots with lots of people in, I want to push that up to around about f11, sometimes f16. But if I'm shooting single images of single people, I can go f8, I can even go as wide as f5.6 if I want to. And if I really want to get those shots where it's all dreamlike and you're really just focusing in on the eyes, if I'm shooting a newborn baby and I want to focus in on little features, I'll whack it right up to 2.8 and get that really shallow depth of field. So we're showing to our viewer where we want the eyes to go. We want the viewer's eyes to go, giving that the point of focus within the image. Generally within portraits, the point of focus is the eyes. What we're going to do just to begin with is we're going to set up this light just over my shoulder on this side here, 45 degrees around from our subject, 45 degrees above from our subject, and angle it down 45 degrees down towards our subject. That's a basic standard Rembrandt style lighting. We'll bring that in for you again. We've got a flat light here, straight in, straight at our subject. We move the light around 45 degrees round from our subject, 45 degrees up from the subject, and 45 degrees down from the subject there. Luckily with these lights here, we see that there's some writings down the side of the softbox here. This is my guide so that I know that the light is pointing in the direction that I want to point it to. I'll take a line from the back of the light here through the middle of the actual light itself. I'll just bring that down so you can see here. I've gone halfway up the back of the light and I'm running through the middle, through to where the flash bulb is, through to where this lovely little bit of wording is there, and it'll give me a direct line, which will eventually, that line will hit just above the pupil of Jasmine's eyes. And that's where I want my catch light to be. That's where I want my light to be. If you ever want to work out how an image is taken, catch lights, the little white dots in the eyes, they'll give you the clues to how many lights were used, how they were used, what size the modifiers were, how far away they were, how close they were, which one was more powerful, which one was less powerful. Look in the eyes, you want the clues are always there. This one needs to go slightly above. And to make sure that I'm correctly color managing my image with this wonderful colorful backdrop that's been handmade in this wonderful studio here, we need to use our passport checker here. So what we're going to ask you to do is just to bring this up just to the side of the face there. Perfect. Making sure that we can see all of the squares here, all of the different colors, and get it right next to your face there for me. Perfect. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in nice and close and take a simple shot here, which I'm sure you'll love. Nice close up, filling the frame as much as possible. Bosh. Now we can go over to the screen, just have a look, make sure that we're exposing correctly from there. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There we go. We'll go with that one, shall we?
Yeah.
1 out of 2 isn't bad. 50% hit rate.
I knew I blinked when you blinked it.
So within this, we can see here. Let me just get this down here. Beautiful, lovely. So we have all of the range of colours in here. Just a quick guide, just at the bottom. If we look at the bottom panel specifically, you've got your blue, your green, and your red for your red, green, and blue digital sensor. You've got your yellow, your magenta, and your cyan there as well for the design side of things. You've got your range of blacks to whites here, with your 12 and your 18% greys here at this end. You've got pungent colours in here for the secondary colours, and then at the top here you have your colours that appear in nature, things like clouds and sunsets and woodlands and greenery and things like that. We're going to come on to that in the second seminar, exactly how that works, but this is going to be intuitive with your Lightroom or with your Photoshop. We will directly be able to manage our colours from that profile now, provided that we use the same body, camera body, provided that we use the same camera lens, and provided that we use the same light on the same power. We now don't need to do anything. We can manage all of our color managements from that one image there, provided we don't change a thing. So let's show you how we can use a simple one light setup in 3 very, very different ways to give us 3 completely different portraits. This is going to be the first one that we're doing. We're already set up with the Rembrandt light here, light coming across and down to the side. We're going to ask Jasmine just to come across this way just a little bit, and we're going to ask you just to cross the feet just a little bit. Beautiful. And we're going to keep your hands there. Actually, I like the way that you are holding your hands just onto there for me, just like that. Lift that chin up nice and high for me. Bring the shoulders around this way, just back just a little bit this way. and then the elbows just come forward there for me, just like that. Keep that looking straight down the middle of the lens for me. And we're going to try not to blink on this one, and I'll check it before we go live. Small side step this way, just a fraction. That's lovely, well done, hold that there. Looking straight towards me, another small side step this way, just working with the background to make sure I want a dead center in the middle of that background. Chin up just a fraction, 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful shot. Let's have a look at those. And there we go. Separation from the background because she's slightly off there. Our Rembrandt lighting is coming across, which has given us tonality and shade across. Our catch lights are at what I would call, it's either 10 and 2, depending on what side you're working at. You want that catch light lying on the line of the pupil and the iris, and you want it at either 10 o'clock on the clock or 2 o'clock on the face of the clock. This side is 10 o'clock on the clock because the light is round to the left. Nice bit of fall off there down to the side of the face, giving us real depth, but there's enough light coming across to make that dress really, really sort of stand out and also have a nice bit of colour on the backdrop. Even at we're working on F8 or I believe it's F9 there on this one. Yeah, we're working on F9 on this one, so there's going to be plenty of detail in that backdrop. That's a really simple setup to go with for your first light. And often when I'm working with models, I'm working on the first shot, that's where I'll put my light. I'll put it up 45 degrees to the left and just have it coming down and then work with the image from there. Work with the lights from there. Try and do different things with the lights from there. Really simple light just to begin with. The only thing about that is, though, we did have quite a sharp fall off, quite sharp darks, and so it's very, very dramatic portrait. What if we didn't want so much drama? And we don't have other lights to sort of fill in that side of the face and to put a bit of extra light back in. What can we do? Well, in this situation, we can actually use our white wall over here. And just by simply bringing the light round to the other side here, and again, we haven't changed its distance, we haven't changed its angle, we haven't changed anything about it. All we've done is just changed where it is in relation to our model. We're just working on the other side. I quite like that, what you're doing there, it's lovely. Drop that. Perfect. Hands here, show me a little bit of gap. Right, okay, so there's a few things here, and I'm going to talk to this camera now. Right, there's a few things here about posing. I'm going to come on to posing in just a moment, okay, but I'm going to tell you something about posing now, very simple. You can relax just for a second. A lot of photographers ask me, they say, posing is really difficult, I don't know how to get people to pose, okay? This was a really good case in point where I was just talking, Jasmine was a little bit bored and just adopted a pose that she was comfortable in. And the fact that you can observe that and see that a pose that someone's comfortable in means that it's something that they actually probably like about themselves. It's probably a comfortable way for them to, and if they stand comfortably, they're going to feel comfortable in the studio. So just use it. It's something a little bit different. Don't waste time going through these different cards, trying to find the right pose and trying to get the hands in the right position and all this kind of stuff. Sometimes just look at the environment around you, look at what people are doing, and just try and get that photographed as naturally as possible. So just go into that pose again there for me if we can. The important thing about this is that initially your hands were more down by the side here. So just bring your hands down by the side here. Initially the hands were down by the side here. The reason why we've brought the hands up like this, do it like that, is because then we have gaps in between the arms here. They're slimming lines. If we produce gaps underneath the arms, we can see the background behind, nice slimming shape and form, okay? The light's coming around here, 45 degrees on this side, as I said. We haven't changed the power, haven't changed a single thing about it, haven't changed the focal length of the lens, haven't changed the body, haven't changed anything. The one thing we have changed, though, is we've added a reflector without adding a reflector. That's what that white wall's there for. This light's going to come skimming across on the Rembrandt side here. It's going to hit this white wall here. It's going to come back into the side of the face and into the arm to give us an even light source. More even than last time, not absolutely even, because it cannot possibly be more powerful than the source. We'll come on to that in just a moment. Chin up there for me. Beautiful. Looking off and over into the light there for me. If you can, chin up there, just there. 3. Now, with these hands here for me, just soften these fingers just a little bit there for me. Close the fingers off. That's attention to detail. Looking over to the side. 3, 2, 1. You didn't blink. You didn't blink. Come back on this one. Just quickly, the thing I said right at the beginning. The way to get to the 90% is consistency, and consistency is about employing things in your workflow that are going to give you less things to worry about. So I'm not worried about my color. I'm not worried about my profile. I'm not worried about what's coming out on the screen and whether it's right or whether it's wrong by messing about with what's on the back of the camera. I know what I get that's going to be coming through is going to be right. So then I can focus on the posing. And when we focused on the posing, we saw something that was natural, saw something that came across and saw something that looked good. Then we can assess it more simply because I'm not worrying about other things. The only thing I'm worried about is the posing. And what I saw was the hands, and we can go, right, we just need to focus on those hands and soften up those hands. If you've got a spare week or 3, go on YouTube and look at different seminars about how to pose hands in classical portraiture and in photography. It's a minefield, but it's something you can really, really delve into and learn. Let's have a look at that image. So there we go. There's your difference. There's your difference maker. We're going to bring this up in line with the one that we shot previously so you can see. You see how dark it is on the image on the left? That's lighting setup number 1. The fall off from this light is not bouncing off of anything. It's not coming back off of anything. It's giving us that really chiseled look to the jawline, dramatic portrait. As soon as we use the white wall on the other side, we are bouncing light back in. And you can see in the jawline, and you can see down the arm, and you can see on the tutu, and you can even see on the leg how that light is coming back in. Minor difference, minor attention to detail. That's lighting setup number 2. Lighting setup number 3. We're going to bring our light round here. I normally work with like lots of music and lots of energy and stuff like that. It feels really unnerving that I can hear, but I'm sure this is coming across well. I'm sure we're encouraged by the amount that we're saying. So, and if I go too fast, there's a couple of things. If I go too fast, just put a cue in the Q&A thing. Then they'll interject. We'll answer any cues that you've got, and you can rewatch this anyway. If I go too fast, just go back and rewatch it. Right. So we're bringing this light in here. We've just moved it round. So we were 45 degrees this side first. We're now 45 degrees this side second. Now we're here. This is butterfly lighting. Real simple. Easy lighting, 45 degrees above and 45 degrees down. It's going to give us an even spread of light across the face. Use it with a hard light source. You should see a butterfly silhouette underneath the nose. That's where it gets its name from. You won't with this. This softbox is too big and too soft, but it's still going to give us a nice dramatic source of light. The main problem with using butterfly lighting in this instance is this stand here, because it's absolutely in the way. So what you need to do is you need to be a little bit cute with it. Come round to the side. Perfect. Give yourself a little hug in here for me, just like this. Do this with the hands. Turn the head towards me slightly. Chin up just a fraction. 3, 2, and 1. Let's see that. Beautiful. Stunning. Attention to detail. We've got her posed exactly where we need her to pose. And the huge difference between this one and the previous ones is the fall off of light onto the background. With the first two, the 45-degree angle, the light is less powerful. I'm going to take you through that in just a moment. So we'll see that some of the colours on that background are slightly darker because there's less light falling across it. As soon as you turn that light back into it, we've got a little bit more colour there on the background and a little bit more pungency. I like that one because the symmetry of the lighting is mimicked by the symmetry of the pose. And there's something about teenage portraits, there's something about connecting with the viewer, there's something about getting those eyes open and looking at the camera and not blinking that really, really sings with these teenage portraits. Let's bring it back up on here. I'm going to show you something else about posing just very, very quickly before we go into round 2 of this simple lighting setup. We're going to bring this light over here so you can see me here. 45-degree angle. The second thing that, the second piece of advice I got with regards to posing, I'm only say this because it is a question that a lot of photographers ask about getting people to pose. The observing method is really, really useful. I use it at a lot of weddings actually. But when I'm working in studio, sometimes you have to direct and sometimes you have to give a bit more instruction. So what I'm going to do now, with Jasmine's permission, is I'm going to direct her into a pose in 2 different styles. The way I like to do it, which will be the second way, and the way I see it done a lot, which is the first way. And we'll see if we can notice the difference and see which one's more effective. So let's give this a go. So if you just take yourself all the way to the back of the studio there for me. Lovely, perfect. Okay, so this is posing method number 1. Okay, Jasmine, if you come forward for me out of the no, further forward. No, not too, no, gone too far back. Okay, now turn to your left. No, sorry, left. I mean left, like my left. Lovely. And now, no more. No, just no. I didn't mean to. Just that's it. And now your head can come back. No, I mean like back towards the light, but not that much. Just there. And just look at me. Lovely. Okay. Get me back. Awful, right? That's method number 1. This is method number 2. Okay, this is the way that I do it. It's a really, really simple technique, and it'll really, really help you out. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you. Get rid of that. Sometimes words are confusing. The really good way to get people to pose and to work with you in studio is to get them to mimic what you're doing. People mimic body language so much more than they will listen to words. And remember, when you're facing someone in a photo studio, there's 2 problems with it. Often you're behind the camera. Often you're talking to them like this. And this is their viewpoint of you. This is what they can see of you, okay? But the other problem is that your left is their right and your right is their left. So it's way easier just to shepherd someone to the back of the studio. It's way easier just to get them to come forward by bringing them forward like that. It's way easier to turn with them the way that you want them to turn. It's way easier to put your hands in there, check your ego at the door when you're doing it like this, especially when you're posing an elite ballerina like this. It's way easier to get them to mimic, look over there. It's that simple. Let's bring you off. Not now, hang on. One more to do, because this is the other element. Go back to the back of the studio there for me, but don't crush the tutu. Perfect. We've deliberately posed Jasmine in Converse trainers here, as you can see, because I wanted that to be part of the story. She actually said to me, we weren't going to do this, we were going to do proper ballet shoes and do a proper ballet shoot. But you said to me while you were getting changed, so I don't like putting them on, and I don't like wearing bare feet because they kill my feet and my feet always get cold. I said, well, what shoes did you come in? She said, well, I came in my Converse and my favourite shoes. So why not help tell a story? Why not create a portrait that's a little bit different? Why not combine 2 different characteristics within one person by just messing it up a little bit and just doing something a little bit different and taking a chance? And it might not work. And mum might see the picture and say, that looks ridiculous. I'm not buying that. I don't like it. Chances are mum's going to actually really, really appreciate it and really, really like it. And I can tell from mum's reaction over my shoulder over there that she does. So we're going to showcase these off now in what is actually quite a small space, okay? And again, we're not changing the power of the light. We're not changing the focal length of the lens. We're not changing the body. Therefore, we can still rely on the image we took of this at the beginning to correctly manage the color management expectations of this image. Do you remember how to do this one? Okay, let's bring it up here. So we've got a little posing block here. We're going to bring it in here. We're going to push you up on there. Get yourself comfortable. Rembrandt lighting down to the side again there for me, 45 degrees around. Good catch. I'm going to go a little bit high because I want it to be dramatic again. I want a lot of fall off on here. Okay. Perfect. Lovely. And I need you just to turn your head there for me that way. That's beautiful. Hold that there. Turn the head even more there for me. 3. Tune up just a fraction. 2. This hand here. Soften it. Open it. Other way. Other way. Other way. That's it. You've got it. Perfect. 3, 2, and 1. Bring the hand down now for me, just on here. That's it. Yeah, that's perfect. Keep that strong. Eyes to me, go. Beautiful. Let's have a look at that one. And there we go. So we could have gone full length on this picture. We could have got a full length picture and done something a little bit different. But I know for a lot of people, studio space is a luxury. It's a privilege to have a big amount of studio space. So this is a way that we can compact the image so that you can shoot it in a smaller space. If we stand you up on that block, stand up, not a lot of people have ceilings that go up this high. And remember, even if Jasmine can stand in your studio that's that high, you need the light to go higher. The reason why the light is always above our subject in all of these pictures is actually quite a simple one. The reason why the light is always above is because it's what's naturally pleasing to us in our environment. We always see the sun from the horizon and above. Even on a cloudy day, the sun is above us. Even on a moonlight night, the moon's above us. We in the environment, in the natural world, never see any light source in our natural environment lighting us from underneath. That's why it's used in horror movies, because it's so unnerving to us naturally. The point of that is that if you have a studio space where it's only up to here, you're going to struggle to get light even higher unless you're punching a hole through the ceiling. So we need to bring our subject down onto the block. Same pose you did before. Crouching down. That's it. So we bring our subject down so that we can then utilize that space and still have our light above it. There we go. Go get changed. Have we got any cues for the A's for me? While we're having a quick change. There we go.
Nothing at the moment.
No cues. Fantastic. Okay.
You've obviously stunned them.
I'm delighted. Let's have a look back through some of these images there. If you have any cues, send them through to me. I will try and aid them as best as I possibly can. Love this shot. So simple. And we're going to show you how we're going to color calibrate this shot in our next seminar. We're not going to do it today because we're on a live tether, and we want to sit down and give you as much information on how to use that as possible. I can tell you from using it over the last month that it's really simple, and it was actually staggering to me, particularly in the blues, how much information came back. And I'll be shooting like this going forward, which is why I wanted to showcase to you the really colourful images here, so that when we come back to look at these from RAW, you're going to see real colour pop. And that colour pop, while it's still in your sRGB workspace, will be able to be transferred to your monitor. So you'll see the colours that you're effectively going to get and that have effectively been captured by the camera. You're going to see true colours all the way through, complete consistency. And if you get that right, the printing thing is a real doddle. So you get a fantastic print coming back.
So we have a question saying, if you use a colour card, how do you know everything matches on the computer?
How do I know everything matches on the computer? It's a systemic thing. It's a workflow thing, really. I know from shooting the image correctly in camera that the management of it's the internal software, which I found really interesting to use in my Lightroom. Very simple. It actually identifies the Calibrite color checker. It identifies it as a piece of color management technology, takes that and creates its own profile. Now I calibrate my screens once a week. I put my reminder up once a week, so I use them quite a lot. And I make sure that I always use them in the same ambient light space, so there's no differences in the ambient light around me. So provided I know that the color checker passport has been used for that shot, and provided I know that the profile has been set to the right passport profile, and provided that the monitor is calibrated, I am 100% convinced that all of the colors I'm seeing are absolutely true. And I've tested it with prints as well.
So we got a couple more questions. Yes. One was, do you shoot in Adobe RGB or sRGB?
I shoot in sRGB because it gives me a slightly bigger range.
And also asking, what do you use to calibrate your screen?
So to calibrate my screen, I use the Color Checker Display Pro. I've used a number of different calibration tools in the past. I've always calibrated my screen because if you do have a problem with a printer or with something looking different, the first thing that any supplier is going to come back to you with is, have you calibrated your screen? And it's just very easy to say, yes, I have, and I do it every week, and I do it with this. this particular, the Display Pro here has a massive range of colours that it calibrates to. But also what I noticed on the first time we set it up with the BenQ monitor was how simple it was to see the before and after. And actually that before and after, it's gone through its calibration procedure, which takes, around about sort of 10 minutes. Well, 10 minutes for me, because I'm difficult with technology, as you notice when you try and download the software, but it can be as quick as 2 when you're just updating from scratch. Seeing the before and after was the real eye-opener, because you saw the differences in your blues, the differences in your magentas especially, and magenta is such an important colour and skin tone as well. So to go through that calibration procedure and to have a really good quality monitor, and remember this BenQ monitor is specifically for photographers. So this 270SW is specifically made with photographers and photographs in mind, so that you know that you're getting the best results from shoot to print.
So one more was a comment that they were seeing you were shooting at 4700 degrees Kelvin.
Yes.
Why was that?
It's a very, very good question. Thank you for asking. I keep it consistent throughout the entire shoot. So the most important thing for me is that I'm not shooting on auto white balance, because I don't want the camera to make the judgment as to what the temperature is of any scene that I'm looking at, because it will change depending on what the client's wearing, what the backdrop is. I just want consistency to my workflow. And if I know that every image is shot at the same Kelvin, then I know it's an easy adjustment to make in line with the Color Checker Passport photo and the BenQ. Cool? Lovely. Let's bring it in. So we've had a change. Hello. We're back with sort of like a Ziggy Stardust Care Bears inspired t-shirt. I like it. Do you know who Ziggy Stardust is? Excellent. Always build a rapport with your clients. So, what we're going to do now, we've kept it colourful on the top because I wanted to see how the colours worked on the t-shirt when we calibrate and when we look at it through our monitors and when we use the software. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to shoot this way towards this white wall. So if you've got a sheet of white paper, one of those white vinyl backdrops, or even just a white wall outside your home, which is where I started shooting. I had a big white wall outside my home, first of all, that I used for sort of headshots and things like this. And then we eventually just painted one of the walls upstairs white and just did it upstairs from there. Nice brick wall all in white. So we're going to do that now. And what we're going to do now, without affecting the power of the light, without changing the light, without changing the softbox, without changing the lens, without changing the body, is we're going to make this wall go from white to grey and then eventually to black. What I need to do for this one though is I just need to switch off the fluorescent light, which is just above me here. I'm going to get rid of all of the ambient light. So just for a short period of time, this room is going to go a little bit darker than it was before. So you'll excuse me while we do this. But it will make it easier for you to see. Hopefully, there we go. See, it does make it easier for you to see. This is good. So now there's no ambient light because this won't be on when it flashes this ambient light in here. That will go off. There's no ambient light in this picture at all. We know that everything we see is the flash output from this hitting the wall. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to bring Jasmine onto the back wall there for me if we can. She's right on that back wall with the light coming in at 45 degrees. Really simple there. Perfect. Stroppy teenager, please. Beautiful. Turn the head to the side. Don't look at me. Lovely. Wonderful. This is our first shot here, right against the back wall. 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. Next shot. We're going to bring you off the back wall there for me if we can. Stood around about there. Come closer to me here. Beautiful. That's lovely. Hold that there. Lovely. Got little pockets there. Something there you can just do that with. That's perfect. Cross the feet. Turn the head slightly to the side this way. Perfect. Looking straight towards me. That's lovely. Eyes to me. 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. Lovely. And then last picture here. You're going to turn so you're facing. Stand there for me. Just there. Back that way just a little bit. Turn so you're facing towards me. Beautiful. Hold that there. Turn the head towards me. Lovely. Little adjustment here. just there. That's lovely. And this should be the shot here. Nice to me. Chin up just a fraction. 3. Lovely. 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. Away we go. Let's have a look at those. Let's get those lights back on now. Lovely. So with one light and one backdrop, we've gone from a white wall, slightly higher key shot, to a mid-tone, mid-grey shot, to eventually a low-key shot with a black background. Little adjustments to the light and little adjustments mainly to the distance. We've put the camera back on now. We can talk about this just a little bit more. Perfect. Take a breather for me just for a second. Actually, come and stand over here for me. There are 4 ways to change the power of a light source. 4 ways to change the power of a flashlight source. I'm going to give them to you now. The easiest way to change the power of a light source is to literally change the power on the back there. So just literally move it up. This one, for instance here, is currently set at 3.4. If I move that up to 4.4, it's moving at a whole stop. So if I was shooting at f8, I'll then be shooting at f11. But essentially, the bigger that number, the more power is coming out of the light source. The second way that I can change the power of a light source, of a flashlight source, is by changing the modifier. The bigger the modifier, the more light's absorbed through it, and therefore the less powerful the light's coming through. So it's got to work harder. It's working across a bigger space. We'll go into that in just a moment with another modifier that I've got here. So you change the modifier. If you use a smaller one with no softness in front of it, no fabric in front of it, no diffusers in front of it, or even one that doesn't bounce back into the light source. Sometimes umbrellas will bounce back the further it's got to travel, the more diffused it gets and the less power it has. So the modifier is one way you can change it. Another way you can change it is by changing the direction of the light source. That was really interesting on the first one we took, because ultimately the light was very direct and going straight into our backdrop, which is why the backdrop was quite white on that first one. By the time we got to our last one, our light source was turned away from it, pretty much a 45-degree angle like that. So there's less fall off, less power of light going towards the backdrop. The last way that we can change it is by distance. So literally the closer that this light is to the backdrop, the more powerful it is, because it has less distance to travel. This is inverse square law. People wrote books on that back in the day, the inverse square law. And then when it's all the way back here, it's less powerful, and therefore your backdrop will be comparatively darker. Don't think just because you have a white backdrop that you're stuck shooting white pictures. You are absolutely not. And once you've worked out how to use one light and how to change that into different shades of grey and different shades of black, that's really, really useful. Then you can start bringing in the second light source, and you can start experimenting with coloured gels on the backgrounds, or just with white spots on the backgrounds, and creating different vignettes and different effects like that. But that is a seminar for another day. What we're going to look at now is we're just going to look at a different diffused light source. So we're going to turn off our Electron here, and we're going to bring in this softbox here. This softbox, an octabox, slightly larger softbox. We're going to bring it in, and we're going to take a fairly similar picture here of Jasmine with it. And I'm going to explain to you the differences with this light source as opposed to the kit softbox that we've just used. Slightly bigger softbox, but not by much. See if we can bring that power in it, roughly the same. Now, the most important thing we need to bear in mind with this is that we've changed something. And what we've actually changed 2 things. We've changed the softbox, the modifier, and we've changed the light flash unit itself. Remember, all of these things that are made in a factory to specific specifications are going to give out different outputs of light, different qualities of light, and they all need to be color checked individually. So we're going to stand you up against that white wall again there for me. Just hold that for me just for a second. Don't hold it up for your face just yet. Just going to double check this light is firing as metered. So we'll take this first shot first. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Looking lovely and board there. That was beautiful. Right, okay, so we're going to bring the passport up to your face again there for me. Just like that. 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. So now we have a brand new, thank you. Now we have a brand new passport photo to calibrate from. And now we can just stand you just here for me. Stood to the side, hand in the pocket. Turn your head so you're looking down towards the floor here for me. Eyes to me, go. Chin away from me just a little bit more there for me if you can. 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. Let's have a look at those. Really simple shot again. But I know for this set of pictures, if I was to continue to use this light, I can use this to calibrate my images correctly. Now, what is the differences between these lights? There's 2 real big differences that I'm going to get out of these 2 different softboxes. If we bring this back up on this one, I can show you. First one is that this one in here has a second diffuse layer inside there. You see that? So my flashlight is just inside here, there, and it has to go through 2 diffuse layers to get out of this softbox. It also has more angles on the inside, so the light is actually sort of bouncing around a little bit more. The more it bounces around and the more diffusion it has to pass through, the softer that light source. What that means is it's a nicer fall off of shadows. Once again, made Jasmine look like a tripod on legs there. Amazing. Nicer fall off of shadows. The other thing is going to be, and if we bring this back up on here, is the catch light. And again, catch light is the key to working out how images have been shot, how images have been taken. And in this one here, we will be able to see that the catch light is a lovely circular shape, as opposed to the previous one with our square softbox. We bring that up here. It's quite close there, and it's much more angular. The reason why the circular shape is so much more pleasing is because it mimics the sun and mimics much more of what we see in the natural world. So that's why so many photographers prefer to use it. Last change. There you go. Any cues? Because we just have a change now. I should have told them to change while I was doing that last bit. So I'll rehydrate because it's very important. And if we have any cues, then I'll get them from over here.
Why are you not using a grid?
Do we mean a grid as in on the front of the softbox?
Yes.
So complete honesty. I tried grids on panoramic softboxes 10 years ago to try and restrict the spill of light in my studio when I was using them for separation lights, for like rim lighting on either side, and I still got spill. And I got an upset and never used them again. And I've never been tempted to go back to them. The only grid that I've ever used that worked was like a big square one, a honeycomb one, really small honeycombs on the front of like a 1 meter by 1 meter square beauty dish, which I had in the first studio I worked in. And that really restricted the light, and I could really manage it, and it worked really, really effectively, and really dragging into those sort of contrasting portraits that had real drama to them. It's just a personal choice for me, and I like working with a nice even spread of light, and it's just a studio style for me to not have anything too direct. I hope that answers the question. Some things are just personal.
We've got a difficult question from Matt Walker, who said, where would you point the colour checker with silhouette shots?
It's a good question. Well, he says, taking a big sip of his water. I would, provided, you want to, the whole experiment is to get as close to calibration with the equipment that you have. And if you've taken a calibration shot with the color checker, with the same body, the same lens, and the same light previously within that shoot, then that's going to give you that's going to give you as close to a calibration as you can possibly get, because in that instance, you physically don't have any light landing on the subject if you're creating a true silhouette. So ultimately, a true silhouette is going to be a black and white image anyway, really. So therefore, color calibration possibly isn't as much of an importance as everything else. And you can still use everything you've used previously, provided it's all the same bodies and the same lenses. You're just trying to get as close as possible.
So there's a couple of other questions that are put inside there, but I was going to say I've been reliably informed that Ms. Barnameska will ask the more technical ones because they're much more to do with the colour side of things.
Okay.
And I've got one final one before we go on. With the lighting, do you find it easier with one light or to have more set up?
Oh, wicked. I can tell my story. This wasn't a planted question either. So in 2005, I was working in a studio, and I've been working in a studio for 9 months. And at that point in my 9-month career, I thought I completed photography because I was shooting 9 sessions a day. I was making families laugh. The studio was making money off of my photography, and I thought I was brilliant. So we used to have these monthly meetings where I would take a print up in front of all the other photographers in the region. You take your favorite print up from that month, and it would be assessed by the head photographer of the company at the time. And I took up this picture that I'd shot with 12 lights because, like I said, I thought I was brilliant at photography. And I thought if I've taken an image with 12 lights, it's going to be 12 times better than everyone else's image who's only been taken with 1. And I got asked to bring my print up. I proudly went up. I was first up. And the digital image arrived on the screen and the print arrived in front of the assessor. And he spent what felt like about half an hour, but in reality was probably about 10 minutes, which is long enough, tearing that image to pieces. On the cropping, on the posing, on the composition, on the use and quality of light, on the color, on the relationship, on the storytelling, just on everything. And finished his assessment by announcing to the room of my peers, why is this photographer trying to use 12 lights when he doesn't even understand how to use 1? And that feedback nearly broke me, but didn't, because I used it as a learning opportunity, which is what you should always do with things that set you back. And it wasn't feedback that was said to set me back. It was feedback to sort of bring me back down to earth and to sort my learning experience out. And from that day, I've tried to use 1 light as much as possible. And I've shot images all around the world with 1 light because it's easier to carry, it's easier to pack. And some of the images that have got me jobs, some of the images that have made me the most money, and some of the images that have got me the most notoriety within the world of photography have all been shot with 1 light. I like the challenge of setting multi-light setups, but equally I like the simplicity of shooting with a single light, and I'm still learning to this day. Is that all right?
Fine. Just 2 more very quick ones before you get set up. So, question about the flashlights: are they color consistent across the whole power range?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you affect anything within the light, you need to retake your color calibration with the passport. So if I was to suddenly decide, no, I want to shoot this at f2.8 and I want to lower the power of the light, then I would take a brand new reading because you want to be as consistent as possible. And the only way to be assured of that is by using the passport every time you change something.
And the final question is, what is the difference in light behavior between the Octa and an umbrella on the same size?
The difference between the light behavior of an Octa and the umbrella of the same size. I don't use umbrellas that much, so I can't speak from experience. In fact, that's a lie. I used an umbrella once, I think in about 2008, and it didn't go well. I didn't like the quality of light coming off of it. My experience of it was that there was a lot more spill, so it was a lot less easy to control. As soon as it goes outside of that range of the umbrella, it's sort of spilling out everywhere and bouncing off of lots of different coloured surfaces and things like that. I've found the deep Octa just has a lovely tonal range within the shadows. And it's especially when you start feathering it, and by feathering it, I mean just turning it away from the subject. I've just found that the real depth of range in the tonal quality you get is really, really lovely. But like, a lot of people are restricted. I don't want to put barriers to entry in front of anyone. The umbrellas are probably the most cost-effective way of starting your journey into sort of off-camera flash and studio strobes. So I wouldn't dissuade anyone from doing it. And you can obviously mix up the colours within that. You can have silver umbrellas and white umbrellas and gold umbrellas and make it nice and simple from there. All right. We're going to finish off now with what is quite an important thing. So like I said, I wanted to have a challenge today by shooting a teenager. And it's been a challenge, hasn't it, Jasmine? Yeah. Good. It has been a challenge. Come in so we can see you. Jasmine's been marvellous. So say nice things about Jasmine in the comments. I will be reading them later and feeding them back to her. But she's been brilliant. Because this isn't easy being a teenager doing this, right? I wouldn't even leave the house when I was a teenager, let alone go on the internet. Imagine that. So you've been marvellous. So thank you very much indeed. Okay. So teenagers typically, like they are quite, they can be a challenge in studio. Although I've been reliably informed they're all not camera shy these days because of TikTok, whatever that is. So we've, but what's really important to me in family photography is like parents will often come in for a family shoot, and so it's just the kids. We're just doing the kids today. And I tell you, there is, like, they say that out of all humility and all of that kind of stuff, but ultimately, the thing you want to get is a family shot. So to encourage parents to come into the shots is a really positive thing to do, because what we do as family photographers, I think is like, I just think it's brilliant. I just think the fact that we can capture moments in time. I've still got my wedding album at home, and I still open up my wedding album every anniversary, and we sit down with it with our kids now, and our kids get to see our family the way they were 11 years ago, and they get to see people who are no longer with us. And that's the whole beauty of photography, is that you can capture a moment, freeze a moment in time, and capture a family as they are. And often mums, and mum's going to come on now. Exactly, see the body language? You see that? Mums will be like, oh no, I don't want to. And I know I'm a parent and I don't particularly want to be in photos of my kids, but when I see them, I love them. I love photos of me with my kids. And it's kind of a thing you got to try and overcome, because it will reward you in the sales room. Again, if you can get a great image into a parent's hand, it can mean the world. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to our first light setup, and I'm going to take you through how I would attempt to photograph what this is essentially, which is a family image of a mum and a daughter. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to this camera over here, which is gone. So we're going to stay on that camera over there. And we're going to use our colourful backdrop, because we have colourful clothes, and we're going to try and get as much good colour out of this image as possible. Jasmine, you're going to go to the back of the room, and Mum, you're going to stand next to Jasmine there. Can you see me now? That's lovely. Okay, so we have a light here. We're going to work the light over on this side here so you can see. It doesn't really matter. Look how tall Jasmine looks.
And I'm in heels.
Mum's still hiding. Did you see that? Mum's still hiding.
And I'm in heels and she's still
right. Parents always do this. You ever shoot a family group or you ever shoot a wedding group, you'll see that the less confident people will stand at the back. I bring them forward. Make a point. We're not going to do that in this instance. The psychology behind family portraiture is that people are proud of their kids. Kids are immensely proud of their parents. They really are. But parents are really, really, really proud of their kids. And ultimately, parents are the ones who have the credit cards, who have the debit cards, and who have the investment potential to make you money. The kids don't. So what we want to do is we want to try and flatten mum. There's a system I have in my studio for family photography, okay? It's like this. It works on these principles. Make mum look good. Make the kids look good. Make any pets look good, and then make sure dad's in it. And that's what I do. And that's the priority that I have. So with that in mind, what we're going to do is we're actually going to get Jasmine to sit down here. And we've angled that stool so she's facing towards the light. Deliberate angle of that stool to make sure that she's facing towards the light. You're going to shuffle across this way just a little bit more. The whole stool actually. Stand up. Whole stool's going to come across this way. Perfect. Just there for me, looking straight towards me. And with her sat on the stool now, mum's taller, which is pleasing mum, as you can see. There we go. But what we can do as well is we can put mum behind. And if we stand mum behind, then we immediately have separation in terms of the height of the picture, which means that your eye is going to be drawn around the frame when you eventually look at the image. A little bit of separation. Plus, there's also the subliminal messaging with mum being the matriarch of the family at the top with the children underneath, right? Wonderful. You're going to give her a little huggle over the side. And we know how well the huggle went down in practice. Not very well at all, ladies and gentlemen. The huggle didn't go over well at all. You're going to bring your head down to this side there for me, and you're going to be looking this way, so I'm going to be shooting the camera this way for me. Standing a little bit more behind, so still in behind, that's it. Now, she's a little bit tall for me on this one, okay? You can't see from this angle, but she's a little bit tall for me on this one. There's two ways I can get you to go a little bit smaller there for me, Marie. Way number one is this,
Or take your heels off.
which we don't want to do. Way number two is just to bring your feet slightly wider apart. So bring this foot in here. There you go, power stance, that's what we like to see. Beautiful. No. So the arms can come down low and just round about by our waist there for me, so underneath the arms there for me, both hands. Get your head.
She might smile.
We didn't know she was ticklish. This is one way to get your kids to smile. Looking straight towards me. And let's get those faces in nice and close together. 3, 2, acting like you want to be here if you can, Jasmine. That's perfect. 3, 2, there you go. Hold that there. Now we're going to add in a quick reflector. This reflector here, just a little bit. Last bit of advice. I know I've overrun, okay? And I apologise if you've got other things to do, okay? This is one of the... I said I didn't want cost to be a barrier to entry to anyone. This thing you can pick up online for a tenner. It's a 5-in-1 reflector. It has a gold side, it has a silver side. Inside it has, sorry, a white side there. Inside, because it's zipped, it's got a zipped cover on it. Inside it's got a silver side there and a black side, which you can just reverse. And then the inside disc is a translucent disc, which you can put up against the sun to block out the sun. The sun will come streaming through. It'll be a diffused light coming through there. It's a brilliant thing. And I use it in the studio all the time. If I want to go dramatic, I'll put a gold in there, but I don't want to go dramatic. I just want you just to hold that there for me. Both of you hold that in there for me. Keep it upright. Get in nice and close. Cheek to cheek there for me if we can. Perfect. 3. Jasmine, turn your head slightly this way. Oh, look at that. 1 for the wall. 3, 2, and 1. There you go. Perfect. Let's have a look at that shot there. That last one was good. And we come back and we get rid of that. And there's your last one there. Get his camera back. Get his camera back up. They were just looking, they haven't seen that shot before because it didn't go that well in practice.
Jasmine doesn't like hugs, that's why.
Jasmine doesn't like hugs. We've learned that she doesn't like tickles. Mum can't stop smiling now. Did you notice that? Bring it back up. Let's have a look at it. And the reason why she can't stop smiling is because it's flattering for mum because she's behind, but also her child is in front of her. But also the fact that we've managed to talk to them while we're taking the pictures, we've managed to make them laugh, we've managed to make the light really, really flattering as the light comes bouncing up on there. All from a one light setup, all with the colours in the background, a nice, bright, vibrant, simple image. Couldn't be easier. That's one light portraits. That's one light family portraits. There's nothing. I've seen lots of trends come and go, particularly in family photography, particularly newborn photography, actually, over the last 15 years. And I love them all. I love everyone's style. And I would encourage more people to try and find their own style. But when I started my first studio job back in 2003, my manager, who was the owner of the studio and had been the owner of the studio since the late 1950s, said to me on my first day in the studio, he said, do whatever you want in there, just make sure people have fun. Because there's nothing that I've seen in my over 50 years in the business to disprove the theory that parents will buy image of their children smiling and looking at the camera. I took that piece of advice on about 20 years ago, and it's still true to this day. And that's still what we try to achieve in the studio. We want people to have fun, we want flattering images, but ultimately we want people to have images that they will look back on with affection through the years. Have we got any more cues before I bring this to
an end? One more question.
Thank you.
Which is, do you have an optimum softbox size either for individuals or groups? And also, is there a minimum wattage for a softbox size?
That's a very good question about the wattage, and I'm sure someone with technical information about the wattage will get back to you on that, but I can answer the question. I'll always say if I can't answer a question. I can answer the question on softboxes. And I'll go back to what I said right at the start. Ideally, you're looking for a softbox to mimic the size of the subject that you're photographing. So in this instance here, this softbox is an 80 centimetre softbox. And we were taking an image of the head and shoulders of this couple here. So it's the perfect size for them because it will evenly light the subject that you that you have in front of you. If I want to do full length groups, I've got a big, like 2 meter octabox at the back of the room there that I'll use, and I'll pull that out for big groups. But ultimately as well, moving the modifier closer to and further from the subject changes how hard and how soft it is. So if you can work, actually working in a small space isn't that bad because your lights have to go closer to the subject, which means they're providing you with a softer light source and much better quality of the tonality within the image. If you've got any other questions, I'll try and answer them next time when we come back, because we are doing chapter 2 of this seminar. We are going to be looking at how we use the software to calibrate the screen, calibrate our images, and create perfect images from shoot to print. We're going to be using the BenQ. Thank you. BenQ SW270C. It's specifically made for photographers. It's got a puck. I can't wait to show you what the puck does, because that was the thing that I saw. I thought I haven't seen one of those before, and it's ergonomically beautiful. I love it. And actually, it's got a really, really cool feature on the back of it that I've used every day since I've got it, and I can't wait to share what that is with you. That's made my life 10 times easier. I want to thank everyone for hosting me today. I want to thank everyone who came online for me today. Thank you everyone who knew of me before. People didn't know me before, that's fine. I'm glad you know of me now. I'm glad that we're friends, or hopefully we're friends. Thank you for sending in everyone's questions. I hope I answered as best I can. Thank you to Jasmine, and thank you to Bruce. Give them a big round of applause. See you in a couple of days' time. All the best.